Welcome back to Catholic Conversations. As always, I'm your host, Joelle Zarnowski, and this week we are joined by Sheila Austin from Emmaus Ministry here in Syracuse. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so we just want to talk about Emmaus and share your ministry with our listeners. So we'll just dive right in. Can you share kind of the mission of Emmaus and how it got started?
Sure. The mission of Emmaus is really basically to bring the presence of Christ to those in need. And we do that through a variety of things, but we use the corporal works of mercy to be our model or our pillars of service. And it started back in 2009 with Father Mano.
Oh, great.
At it was St. James Church at the time. It's
Right.
now Our Lady of Hope. And he was newly assigned. I was just getting back to church. I had been away from church for a good 25, 30 years or so. Mm-hmm. So I was very vulnerable and a newbie and really didn't know my way. I was really just trying to hide somewhere in order to get back into that practice that I realized there was a big void in my life. So long story short, he came to St. James and had this vision of how do we bring the presence of Christ to those outside of our walls, mm-hmm. which I didn't appreciate even what that meant, mm-hmm. Because we're so used, I think, in parish work to be taking care of our parishioners and helping families that are part of the parish. But the challenge of taking that somewhere else was foreign to me. And I immediately said, no, I don't think I'm the right person. And he says, no, I think you are. And so we took what was a sandwich making ministry and expanded on that. So we were making sandwiches for the Catholic Charities Men's Shelter, mm-hmm. and we quickly recognized that we were not able to really have that personal connection. See, we were making sandwiches and the shelter was picking them up, mm-hmm. and giving them to the men. So when Father Mano said, tell me about the men who are eating the sandwiches, and I went into a cold sweat and just said, I don't know them. He says, why not? I said, because I'm afraid to go there. And he said, well, that's where you begin. Mm-hmm. And begin what? And he said, well, let's just see where it goes. So we moved into getting some volunteers to now be willing to go down to the shelter with our sandwiches and meeting the guest or the men at the time there on their turf. Mm-hmm. And that was an eye-opening experience for me, and I think for most anybody really who are not familiar with that side of society. And I knew immediately when we went in that night that this is where I needed to be. Mm. And I remember feeling like the presence of Christ in that space with those men. Yeah. And so we proceeded to start making hot meals, bringing that down to the men, identifying things that they didn't have or didn't have enough of, like toiletries and socks and sneakers and things like that. And so we gradually built this ministry around what we knew they needed, and not so much about what we thought we should bring to them. Yeah. Because it needed to be purposeful, intentional for them. And it expanded into identifying that they need somebody to do haircuts because they don't have access to money in order to go and get a haircut. And the reality is that they don't like to necessarily look all disheveled, just like you and I wouldn't want to. But it was their lack of access to things that we recognize. So we added a hair cutting ministry. We added a greeting card ministry to where we helped them connect with family members that they have been estranged from for the holidays or their birthdays and things like that. And so it allowed a way for the men to articulate and help reestablish possibly a relationship. We went from there to taking it to the streets, is what we called it. We got a van and loaded that up with all of those items of needs or those questions that we have for items, and we drove around the city. And we went under bridges and into encampments and did the same sort of thing while we were still at the shelter. And we quickly realized that we could really make an impact on a community if we had a place of hospitality. So that kind of launched us into the Emmaus Ministry outreach. Found a building on the south side. We got that all ready to go where we could provide meals and laundry and the haircuts and things like that. And it's just kind of taken off from there.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's great. So something that a seed was planted with Father Mano, and he obviously saw a gift in you that maybe you didn't see in yourself, and he just kind of, encouraged that until it grew into something more, which is so great. So, so how do you feel that your ministry impacts the faith of these people that you're interacting with? I mean, I would assume not all of them are Christian or Catholic, but you're still showing them the love and care of Jesus Christ, so that must have some sort of impact on them.
We make no bones about the fact that we are Catholic. I mean, we have crucifix and religious pictures and things like that. So, but we are careful about not overwhelming them, or proselytizing per se. And yet, what we've learned is that the people that we're serving have a sense of God and hope, even within a hopeless situation. They have a huge sense of love and compassion for others who are even less fortunate than they are. So that was very humbling to see. But we find, as volunteers and as staff, that we are energized by our guests that come in, and they will stand at the door and just say, "God bless you." So God's present. And we just needed to provide a place for them to know that they could come to, that they're, in essence, it was theirs. And it allows them to be who they are and to share with us what their relationship already is with their God, whatever religion that might be.
Right.
And they often call it coming to church.
Oh, that's
the
so
kids
sweet.
will ask Mom, are we going to church today to get the meals? Or are we going to church today for the children's program or the puzzles or the books? So I've learned that sometimes we don't need a lot of words. We just need to be present and to give of ourselves with whatever it is that we have to offer that's helpful for them. And God takes care of the rest.
Yeah.
It makes it really very easy.
Yeah. Oh, that's so great.
Yeah.
So with that, would you be willing to share maybe a story or two about, an interaction that you've had with someone, obviously keeping confidentiality in mind, but that has really, left a mark on your heart?
Yeah. And this goes back to those early days, actually. And it was a gentleman at the shelter. And as many of them are, they have addiction issues and mental health issues and such. But this fella, and I know he's fine with me to share his name. His name is Kirk. There was something special about Kirk. Just a big personality, a softness, and an appreciation and stuff. And over time, we created a very nice relationship. And he confided in me one day that he really didn't want to continue this life of drugs and crime that he was living for 50 years at that time. And so we assisted or supported him in his attempt for recovery by taking him down to where he could, give himself into rehab, maintain a relationship. And to this day, he's a good friend of mine. He's a good friend of Emmaus Ministry. But he acknowledges the goodness of people of faith who are willing to accept somebody like him, and that his life has been full. He has reconnected with his family. He now is some 13 years drug free.
That's great.
And he's still a very good friend. And when I'm feeling kind of like, things just aren't jiving or connecting, you feel a little distant, I'll call him and I say, so talk to me, tell me how things are going. And we have a wonderful conversation about God and the fact that it was people like us who helped him reconnect with that.
Yeah. That's so beautiful. I'm sure you have so many experiences like that, but it is nice to hear about the ones that, they go back such a long ways and you still have those connections today. And it just shows the lasting impact that your ministry can have on the people that you're serving. So,
and we would invite him to come to the center when we would have confirmation groups or service groups come in, and he would tell his story to them. And for somebody like you and I who aren't kind of used to that environment or that kind of person, to be with that person, to hear his story and to see him just exude with joy of how God has worked in his life.
Yeah.
He continues to give back.
Yeah. That's so great.
Yeah.
And it's so great that he's willing to share his story, because it is something that's very vulnerable and personal. And, I think that it takes a lot of courage for people to be able to share those things with others. So that's wonderful. So we talked a little bit about some of the needs that you see in the population that you work with. And I think that for those of us that aren't working in this, area of ministry all the time, there's that thought process like, well, they need food. I feel like food is always the thing that everybody is like, well, obviously they're homeless, they need food. But there are other things that they need to, like you mentioned, haircuts, and they need access to laundry. They don't want to be walking around wearing dirty clothes. They might need socks more regularly because they need to be able to protect their feet while they're out walking around, or whatever they're doing during the day. But so what do you see as like the greatest need in the population that you serve that maybe people wouldn't necessarily think of?
Well, the greatest physical need is indeed the food and the drink. I would say that what we learned after we created that space where we could feed them and take care of more of their physical needs and give them companionship and love and acceptance, we found out that they didn't have access to dental and medical care. They couldn't afford the bus passes. They didn't have a doctor. They didn't have insurance. All sorts of barriers for them. So we created a free medical and dental clinic right on our campus, primarily just out the back door.
Yeah.
And we've had a tremendous response from providers, medical and dental providers, to come and give their services to our guests. So that's, I think it's about that lack of access, that it's hard to really comprehend how devastating that is.
Yeah.
And their desire to have a connection with other human beings, and their anxiety that they may not be accepted.
Yeah.
And you compound that on top of the addiction issues, the poverty, the homelessness, the mental health. It's a big hole for them to have to kind of climb out of. But
Right.
I think our faith is the perfect vehicle for us to meet them.
Yeah. 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 So, for any of our listeners that might be wondering, like, how can I help support a ministry like this? Obviously, you rely very heavily on volunteers to come in and help with the physical part of it. So can you explain what different opportunities there might be for people who are interested in supporting Emmaus?
Yes. So our volunteers primarily are connected with the meal service side of things. We served 111,000 meals just last year.
Wow.
So we need a lot of volunteers. It's usually about 70 to 80 that we'll have come through in a week's period of time in order to provide the services that we have. We also have a grocery bag or food pantry that volunteers are part of to do the shopping, the packing, and the distribution of that. We have a beautiful children's program that is making huge strides in the lives of the children that we have. So we have volunteers from all over that come to help us with that. Again, with the clinic, we're always looking for professionals to help us be able to treat more of our guests. We're kind of limited in how many we can take care of based on the number of our volunteers. And again, we're actually right now we're looking for somebody who will do haircuts.
Okay.
And we have somebody who needs foot care. So we need volunteers that are comfortable to come in and clip toenails and take care of just the condition of our guests' feet, because they're devastated.
Yeah.
They're on their feet all the time.
Yeah. So they really need to make sure that they're able to take care of themselves as best that they can. Yeah. Yeah. So what we're going to do for our listeners is we're going to put a link to your ministry's website right in our description. So listeners, please go check that out, so that they can, continue to learn more about your ministry, and they can see the different ways that they can provide support, get in contact with you if they're interested in volunteering. So, but thank you again for coming on today and sharing this amazing ministry with us, and your your wonderful experience with helping these people who really just need love and care from those around them. So
yeah, thank you for the opportunity, Joelle. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
God bless you.
Thanks. And thanks to our listeners. We will see you next week.